Hey, it's me, Rotem Brayer, and I wanted to let you know I wrote a new book. It's called The Art and Science of EMDR, and I can't wait for you to read it. So, I know you have a lot of books on your shelf that you haven't read yet, and I know that your Amazon cart is probably full with books, like most therapists. So I wanted to take a moment and tell you why I wrote this book. I wrote this book with one goal in mind: to help you become a better and more effective EMDR therapist. Reading this book and using what you will learn in this book will help you become a more effective EMDR therapist. So over the past few years, I spent hundreds of hours reading about EMDR and researching and thinking about EMDR, and sometimes even, and I'm not kidding you, dreaming about EMDR. So it has been my obsession, and because it has been my obsession, I wanted to ask the experts. How do EMDR therapists get better at being EMDR therapists? How do EMDR therapists get better at being EMDR therapists?
So the question is, how do EMDR therapists get better at being EMDR therapists?
How do we get better? How do we get better? How do EMDR therapists get better at becoming?
It's a great question.
It is a great question, and it's a question I spent so much time researching that I thought I'll write a book about it and I'll share my knowledge with other EMDR therapists. So in just a minute, I'm going to tell you what's in the book, but I wanted to take a moment to talk about the language. I wrote this book in very simple language. I wanted you to understand concepts. I want you to enjoy the reading. I want it to be an easy read. I want it to be fun for you to read. So not your typical EMDR book. So let's see what's in the book. We start with talking about the brain. Chapter 1 and 2 are about the brain and how EMDR uses neuroplasticity to modify and change and integrate some neural networks in the brain. We're talking very simple terms. We're not getting into too many technical details. I want you to understand the concepts because I want you to understand why you're doing what you're doing. In chapter 3, we'll talk about the therapeutic relationship in the context of EMDR. This is something we're not talking about enough in the EMDR world, despite knowing from decades of research that the therapeutic relationship is the #1 predictor of therapeutic outcomes. So we will talk about the relationship, and then we'll talk about the preparation and some of the most common mistakes that EMDR therapists make in the preparation phase, how to avoid these mistakes, and we'll talk about how to be more effective with resourcing and when to know when our clients are resourced enough so we can move on to their reprocessing phases. In chapter 5, we'll talk about how to make EMDR practice a mindfulness practice for the client and for the practitioner. And this is important that you will recognize how mindfulness practice can really take the EMDR work to a whole new level. We'll talk about research in mindfulness. We'll talk about the origins of mindfulness. It's not just using applications on our phones. There's a lot more to mindfulness. In chapter 6, we'll talk about how to stay in control of the protocol and maintain fidelity to the model while, and this is important, while you're staying authentic to who you are as a person and as a therapist, and how to be creative with your EMDR work. In chapter 7, we'll talk about the reprocessing phases, starting in phase 4, and how to enhance these phases. And then there is the last chapter. This is what I'm most excited for you to read about. In chapter 8, we'll talk about a proven method to getting better. What you will learn in chapter 8 can really be a game changer in your EMDR work with your clients. We'll talk about a method called deliberate practice. This method is what experts do to become experts. Deliberate practice is not a secret. It's not limited to people who call themselves experts. It's something that has a lot of research behind it. It's a proven method, and we can all use it to improve what we do. So this is a very brief look into my book. I can't wait for you to read it so you can take your EMDR practice to the next level. I also want to hear what you think about the book, so if you want to continue the conversation, you can join the EMDR learning community. It's free to join, and you can join at emdr-learning.com. Again, that's emdr-learning.com. Oh, one more thing. What we're not going to talk about in this book is new protocol. This book is not about new protocols. I think we have way too many protocols. It's kind of like social media platforms. There's always the latest and the greatest, and nobody can follow. So, in fact, in the book you will learn why really knowing the standard protocol in depth is a lot better than chasing the latest and the greatest protocol. So you can order the book on Amazon or wherever you buy books, Barnes & Noble, or even Target, and you're welcome to join the community. I hope to see you there.